Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD General Physician. Today we'll be discussing on one of the another interesting topic which is nowadays very clearly can be identified and you can pick up those cases we call obstructive sleep apnea. Very interesting condition and you will see every day in and out this particular cases we call as obstructive sleep apnea, classical. Meaning is very simple. There is an obstruction, particularly when the person goes into recumbent position, that is during sleep, and secondary to obstruction, person gets apneic spells. That's why it is given a name, obstructive sleep apnea. There is also one condition which we call, if person is having apnea during sleep without any obstruction, we call it a sleep apnea. And if there is a decrease period of apneic phase, then it is also called as a hypopnea syndrome. We'll be talking about all those aspects. So we'll be talking as usual, definition, etiology, pathophysiology, clinical features, investigations, differential diagnosis, treatment and complications. So obstructive sleep apnea is a sleep disorder that involves cessation or significant decrease in airflow in presence of breathing effort. So meaning is very simple. Person gets decrease in breathing effort. Either there is a complete cessation that we call as apnea or significant decrease we call hypopnea. So whenever a person during sleep, if he gets apnea or hypopnea, then that will be labeled as obstructive sleep apnea. It is most common type of a sleep disorder, breathing, and is characterized by recurrent episode of upper airway collapse during sleep. That's why sleep apnea is also divided into sleep breathing disorders, which you can divide into three groups: central sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea, and mixed variety. And there was another word which was being utilized, obesity hypoventilation syndrome. What is sleep apnea? Sleep apnea is apnea during sleep. But if it is because of neural drive to all respiratory muscle is abolished, then that is called as a sleep apnea because of neural. That's why the label given is central sleep apnea. While if airflow ceases despite of continuing respiratory drive because of occlusion of oropharyngeal pathway or oropharyngeal airway, then that was labeled as obstructive sleep apnea. So if the person has got effect on breathing effort because of obstruction at the level of oropharyngeal pathway, and that leads to cessation or decrease airflow, then it was labeled as obstructive sleep apnea. And when there is a combination of both obstruction plus central drive, then it is called as a mixed variety. And there was one more, secondary due to obesity. If ventilation becomes less, that was given a name, obesity hypoventilation syndrome, or also labeled as another name, Pickwickian syndrome. So what is sleep apnea? Sleep apnea means stoppage of breathing while asleep. And if that apneic phase is more than 10 seconds, and in one night, if you get 100 to 500 episodes of apnea in one night, plus you get hypopnea, and secondary to this apnea and hypopnea, if person gets hypoxia and hypocarbia, that is classical sleep apnea. So there were different words which were being utilized: obstructive sleep apnea, central sleep apnea, and mixed variety, where it is a combination of central as well as obstructive element. And there was one more which was being labeled chronic respiratory failure is more than central. Then that is very common in mixed sleep apnea, where obstructive element is more as compared to central variety. So that is mixed variety. So there are three groups: obstructive, central, and mixed. You can see here there is a very fluent flow, but in an obstructive variety, because of this passage is being obstructed, there is an airway collapse. So person gets difficulty in breathing, and that produces apneic phase and hypopneic phase. Very typical. There is a blockage to the airflow during sleep. Very typical. You can see this is normal. This is collapse. That is, during that particular time you get snoring sound, and this is complete obstruction. That is typical obstructive sleep apnea. So snoring is a common symptoms in an obstructive sleep apnea. So snoring is one of the thing. Then it can give rise to upper airway restriction. Here it is not given. Okay. Upper airway respiratory syndrome. I have to go through that. Upper airway obstruction. Then secondary to that obstruction, you start getting hypopnea, you get apnea, and you can have also another group of syndrome called as obesity hypoventilation syndrome. So in an obstructive sleep apnea, these are the full different varieties of thing which can come in obstructive elements. There is one word utilized is arousal, where there is an abrupt change in the deep stage of NERM sleep, non-rapid eye movement sleep, to a lighter stage or from REM to awake. That is called arousal. Apnea is cessation of breathing more than 10 seconds, and then there is an arousal. In an obstructive variety, there is chest wall movements. In central variety, chest wall does not move at all. And in mixed variety, chest wall partly moves. So in mixed variety, there is a combination of central plus obstructive. Obstructive element is more than central, that is in case of a mixed variety. In central, there is chest wall movement is nearly absent, while in obstructive, there is a chest wall movements. Hypopnea means decreased airflow, less than 50% from baseline, with more than 4% of desaturated hemoglobin, means we call deoxyhemoglobin, will be there more than 4%, and there will be an arousal. Arousal means change from the deep stage of NERM sleep to the lighter stage, or from REM to awake stage. Rapid eye movement, this is non-rapid eye movement. So that is called arousal. And in respiratory disturbances, person can have apnea with hypopnea, and short form it is called as RD. So hypopnea is reduction in a tidal volume more than 50%, lasting for 10 seconds in presence of respiratory effort. There is one index called as a respiratory disturbance index, or it is called hypopnea index. This means number of apnea and hypopnea per hour of sleep. If RDI is greater than 10, it is more in favor of obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. So if person is having number of apnea and hypopnea more than 10 in 1 hour, that is more in favor of obstructive sleep apnea. So they say that RDI more than 5, RDI more than 10, 20 will increase the risk of mortality, and if it is between 20 to 40, it is moderate. More than 40, it is very severe. Upper airway resistance syndrome is a common word utilized with OSA. That was this particular what we were upper airway resistance syndrome. Sorry, upper airway resistance syndrome, and that will produce snoring also. So that will produce snoring. No desaturation, continuous ventilatory effort. So this will be upper airway resistance syndrome. And then when it becomes severe enough, you will start getting even hypoxia and hypercapnia. So apnea means cessation of airflow more than 10 seconds. Hypopnea means decreased airflow more than 10 seconds associated with arousal and oxyhemoglobin desaturation. Then you call that as hypopnea. And here there is a total cessation of airflow for more than 10 seconds, means during that period there is no respiratory effort. And apnea hypopnea index is used to indicate the severity of sleep apnea, where number of apnea and hypopnea event per hour it is calculated, and if that index, that is apnea hypopnea index, is more than 5, it is considered as obstructive sleep apnea. Between 5 to 15 mild, between 15 to 30 moderate, and more than 30 is considered as severe. So primary snoring, where RDI index will be less than 5. By and large, oxygen saturation will be 90%. Daytime sleepiness is less. In upper airway resistance syndrome, RDI index remains same. Desaturation is close to same, or sometime it is desaturation will become little more, and person will start now getting daytime sleepiness. And in obstructive sleep apnea, RDI index is more than 5, desaturation is more, and person will have a daytime sleepiness, which will be characteristics. So this is the simple way to differentiate between primary snoring, upper airway resistance syndrome, and obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. So you have to look at the RDI index, oxygen saturation, and symptoms, daytime symptoms. So if you look in what we call as a polysomnography, in obstructive sleep apnea, you will get a apnea plus you will have a hypopnea. In a mixed variety, you will have a partial effort. Here you can see there is a good effort. Here in between there is a partial effort in a mixed apnea. In a central apnea, you can see there is no effort at all. No effort. While here there is a constant respiratory effort, continuous effort. And in hypopnea, effort is there, but airflow obstruction will be in between. So diminished airflow with desaturation will be hypopnea. So basically it is classified into obstructive, central, mixed, and obesity hypoventilation syndrome. These are the four common words which are being utilized. RDI index, we have already told you, in a normal person maybe less than 1 per hour, 1 to 2 per hour during sleep. Apnea means complete cessation of airflow, more than 10 seconds. Hypopnea means airflow reduction, more than 50%, more than 10 seconds. Airflow is reduced, while here it is total cessation, complete cessation of airflow. Respiratory effort related arousal, short form it is called RERA. There is a prolonged flow limitation with associated arousal. This will be very commonly seen in an upper airway resistance syndrome, and where there is usually normal oxygen saturation. So these are the few words which are being commonly utilized. I've already told you obesity hypoventilation syndrome is also called as a Pickwickian syndrome, which is characterized by morbid obesity. BMI index is more than 40, and because of obesity there is a chronic hypoventilation with hypercapnia. So CO2, PCO2 is invariably greater than 45 during even wakefulness, and that is going to produce hypoxia, hypersomnolence, and there is a signs of what we call as a cor pulmonale, where you start getting right ventricular hypertrophy with or without failure, and usually during night nocturnal hypoventilation. This is typically described as obesity hypoventilation syndrome. So characteristics of that is BMI is high, chronic hypoventilation with hypercapnia, and then person starts developing symptom signs of cor pulmonale. And secondary to hypercapnia, there is hypoxia with hypersomnolence. That is very typical. Obesity hypoventilation syndrome, short form also called as OHS, but by and large utilize the full term obesity hypoventilation syndrome. Obesity is also related to other syndromes like metabolic syndrome, or it is also called as syndrome X. But when it is combined with obstructive sleep apnea, then it is called syndrome Z. So if we say a syndrome Z means person is having metabolic syndrome plus obstructive sleep apnea. And sometimes you can have a COPD along with obstructive sleep apnea. Then that is called as an overlap syndrome. So do remember these two words. There is also syndrome X in ischemic heart disease. Better word will be metabolic syndrome. If it is with OSA, it is called syndrome Z. And when COPD is along with obstructive sleep apnea, it is called overlap syndrome. So these words are being utilized. As far as etiology is concerned, most common etiology is obesity. Second common is enlarged tonsil and adenoids. Very frequently this is secondary due to an allergic manifestation. Person starts developing allergic manifestation in the form of upper respiratory tract involvement. It is also common during pregnancy. It is common in old age. There is also 5% chance of having obstructive sleep apnea in children between 3 to 5 years. There are some anatomical anomaly which can produce increased possibility of obstructive sleep apnea, like abnormal shape of palate and jaw, large tonsil and adenoids in children, large neck or collar size, macroglossia, or we call it a large tongue with narrow airway, severe deviated nasal septum or nasal obstruction, recent weight gain, etc. These are some of the conditions. There are a lot of other conditions which can be involved. Mechanical, like short, thick neck, neck flexion, supine position, nasal obstruction, nasal congestion, nasal polyp, we call it the nasal obstruction, severe deviated nasal septum, surface tension of upper airway, lynching fluid, lining fluids, metabolic syndromes, etc. Can be also COPD can be also there, where we say overlap syndrome, and when it is associated with metabolic syndrome with obstructive sleep apnea, we call syndrome Z. So these are all the different conditions which can structural abnormality like facial elongation, posterior facial compression, retrognathia or micrognathia, mandibular hypoplasia, brachycephalic head form, inferior displacement of hyoid bone, adenotonsillar hypertrophy, Pierre-Robin syndrome, Down syndrome, Marfan syndrome, Prader-Willi syndrome, high arch palate, good number of conditions. Neck circumference greater than 43.2 centimeter. Neck nasal septal deviation, severe nasal septum deviation. Internal and external wall collapse, turbinate hypertrophy, nasal polyp, chronic sinusitis, macroglossia, retropositioning of the mandible, enlarged upper airway soft tissue structures, inferior position of hyoid bone. All this produces mechanical obstruction. Where there is no abnormality in the structures like obesity, central fat distribution, male to female ratio is 2:1, older age groups, postmenopausal state, alcohol, sedative overuse, smoking, habitual snoring with daytime somnolence, supine sleep position, rapid eye movement sleep during this stage. This is classical example of obesity hypoventilation syndrome, or we call Pickwickian syndrome. You can see this obese and they are more prone to get obstructive sleep apnea. You can see here snoring. This is daytime sleepiness, quite common. So this is very peculiar in Pickwickian syndrome, this particular obesity with hypoventilation. And there are a lot of other risk factors which can be there, like alcohol, smoking, large neck size, increased age, certain medical conditions. Male are more prone to female as compared to female, obesity or overweight, African Americans, postmenopausal women, strong family history, etc. See, it is 4% in male, 2% in female. So ratio is always more. More common in old age means more than fifth decade of life. So it is quite common. More common in male as compared to female, and more with advancing age, alcohol use, enlarged tonsils, etc. So prevalence is 1 to 3%. Primary snoring is very common with 3 to 12%. Male to female ratio, male is little more common as compared to female. It is more common in older age group. Race wise, more common in African Americans, children's. It is very simple that because of abnormality in the facial tissue or anatomical abnormality of mandible, enlarged soft tissue like adenoids, tonsil, or nasal obstruction, etc. It produces resistance to airflow. And if there is a collapse of airflow, it will produce apnea. Because of this collapse, there is an airflow obstruction. So there is a poor oxygenation. So person develops hypoxia. There is a retention of carbon dioxide that will produce hypercapnia. And secondary to that, person will start getting disturbances in sleep, and that will have daytime symptoms and nighttime symptoms. Because of chronic elevation of a PCO2, it will start producing compensatory polycythemia, and hypercapnia will be also associated with pulmonary hypertension. Also secondary to hypoxia, there will be autonomic nervous system will be stimulated, which will produce tachycardia and hypertension. And even there will be a very high chance of getting cardiac arrhythmias. So these are some of the things which will happen secondary due to hypoxia and hypercapnia. So secondary to obstructive sleep apnea, muscle are relaxed at night. So the throat is blocked and air does not reach the lung. Oxygen level will fall in the blood, so we get hypoxia. Now an alarm is triggered in the brain that starts arousal person during sleep. So person starts getting insomnia, and daytime the person will have a sleep disturbances. Muscle in the neck regains their tone and breathing begins again. So there is a stages of apnea followed by increased respiratory effort. Without ever fully awakening, the person slips back to sleep. So person will go back to sleep. So in a mild sleep apnea, the number of apnea is about 10 per hour. But in a severe sleep apnea, it can be more than 40 per hour. So number of apneic phases will increase. So secondary to that particular, there is recurrent arousal, sympathetic activation. Secondary to sympathetic activation, increase in blood pressure and sustained blood pressure elevation, endothelial dysfunction. Because of hypoxia, again it will stimulate sympathetic activation, oxidative stress, and that will again give rise to endothelial dysfunction. There is a gradual change in the intrathoracic pressure. Suddenly there will be increase in the intrathoracic pressure, which will increase transmural gradient, and that will also have damage to vessels, and particularly we call it the endothelial dysfunction. All this will lead to pulmonary hypertension. So intermittent hypoxia will increase the activity, will decrease the level of antioxidants, and there will be increased production of oxidative stress materials. Also there will be increased activity of TNF alpha necrotizing factor, which will give rise to systemic activation and systemic inflammation. There will be also increased level of interleukins CRP, which will again stimulate systemic inflammation. There will be increased level of angiotensin 2 and aldosterone because of a sympathetic activation. Increased level of endothelin, which will produce vasoconstriction and elevate the blood pressure. As well as hypoxia can directly stimulate sympathetic nervous system, and it will also produce vasoconstriction and elevation of blood pressure. So there is an effect on sleep fragment, hypoxia, negative intrathoracic pressure. All this will have a sympathetic surge, hemodynamic effects, oxidative stress, inflammatory response, endothelial dysfunction, increased hypercoagulability, endocrine dysregulation, and this will have effect on endocrine structures because of constant increase in stress hormones. It can stimulate hyperglycemia and end up with diabetes mellitus and insulin resistance. As far as cardiovascular system is concerned, because of increased sympathetic surge and increased vasoconstriction, hypertension, coronary artery disease, congestive heart failure, arrhythmia, cerebrovascular stroke, pulmonary hypertension. And sleep disturbances will produce decrease in quality of life, and person will have a disturbances in sleep. Neurocognitive function will be affected. So cognitive function will be affected, executive function will be affected, and that will affect quality of life. So these are some of the common things which will happen. Out of this, if you see that 50% of the people will develop hypertension, 50% of 60% will have a high chance of developing stroke, 30% has got high chance of acute coronary syndrome, and 25% will have a complete cardiac failure, congestive cardiac failure. So this will be quite common. So this will be the net effect of hypoxia, sleep disturbances, and negative intrathoracic pressure. So these are the different events, and what are the effects is also mentioned here. Say person primary event sleep onset, say he develops apnea. Because of apnea, person gets hypoxia, hypercapnia, and there will be secondary to hypercapnia. This will produce respiratory acidosis. And secondary to respiratory acidosis, it will have acute carbon dioxide retention, which will have chronic hypoventilation. Systemic vasoconstriction will produce hypertension. Pulmonary vasoconstriction will produce pulmonary hypertension and cor pulmonale, or we call as a right side failure. Secondary to vagal bradycardia, ectopic cardiac beats. So this will stimulate that particular, and unexplained nocturnal death can happen because of this abnormal cardiac rhythms. Decrease in pleural pressure, increase cardiac afterload, and that can end up with a congestive heart failure. Now, secondary to this hypoxia and hypercapnia, person gets arousal from sleep. Because of that, now person will have a disturbances in sleep, loss of deep sleep, sleep fragmentation, and there will be cerebral dysfunction because of disturbances. So that will produce excessive daytime sleepiness. Cognitive function will be affected, intellectual function will be affected, personality change, behavior disorders, etc. And secondary to excessive motor activity, during that disturbances, that will produce restless sleep, and that will again predispose to excessive sleep during daytime and abnormal behavior, personality changes, and cognitive function will be affected. Resumption of airflow, person will go back to sleep. Again, this vicious cycle will continue, and these disturbances will be seen. So these are the different modes and pathophysiology by which, because of obstructive sleep apnea, person does not get normal sleep. So there is a sleep fragmentation. Because of obstruction, hypopnea, apnea, person will develop hypoxia, and secondary to hypoxia, there will be effect on lot of functions, cardiovascular, endocrinopathies, etc. And as there is an increased respiratory effort, there is a more negative intrathoracic pressure that will also disturb all these functions. So all these parameters are disturbed, and that will give rise to effect on sleep, effect on neurocognitive functions, cardiovascular disease, endocrinopathies, etc. So these are all those things whatever we have mentioned before, that because of hypoxia, hypercapnia, and because of sleep deprivation, what are the things which it gets irregular? Insulin resistance, leptin resistance, decreased adiponectin, increased TNF alpha, increased interleukins and C-reactive protein, that will result into inflammation and metabolic dysregulation. This will produce insulin resistance, and there will be increased chance of obesity. So this will be more common with obesity. While because of hypoxia, vasoconstriction, adhesions of molecule, endothelial dysfunction, oxidative stress, reactive oxygens means antioxidants productions, coagulation and fibrinolytic imbalance means increased coagulative, that will also result into endothelial dysfunction. Because of obstructive sleep apnea, there is an increased sympathetic activity that will also stimulate insulin resistance, metabolic dysregulation. So these are all interlinked, and that will produce lot of disturbances. So it will have effect on cardiovascular system, hypertension, congestive heart failure, Cardiac arrhythmia like bradycardia, AV blocks, atrial fibrillation, ischemic heart disease, myocardial infarction, even nocturnal angina, and even can end up with cerebrovascular disease. And because of hypoxia, hypercapnia, negative intrathoracic pressure, arousal phenomena in between, person will have a sympathetic activation, vasoconstriction, release of catecholamines, impaired cardiovascular variability, endothelial dysfunction, vascular oxidative stress, inflammation, increased coagulability, metabolic dysregulation, etc. And this will be the final effect. So there are a lot of arrhythmias which can occur right from bradycardia to a heart blocks, atrial flutter fibrillation, ventricular extrasystole, etc. can occur secondary to obstructive sleep apnea. So these are all. This is bradycardia. This is ventricular premature beat. This is blocks. Then there is an increased chance of hypercoagulability. So in a clinical features, the earliest thing is heavy snoring, and in between there is witnessed by apneic phase, stops breathing while sleep, and then snores. There's a choking sensation. Secondary to this, there's a daytime sleepiness. Invariably, you will find out loud snoring, hypersomnolence, excessive daytime sleepiness, depressed mental functions, altered personality, impotence, headache upon waking, nocturia. Person is invariably obese. Very typical. This is a daytime sleepiness, headache. Person will have a nocturia, choking sensation, heartburns, GRD symptoms. Each night, the person will have a snoring. You can see different types of presentation. Excessive somnolence. So snoring, excessive daytime sleepiness, obstructive episodes, morning headache, personality change, intellectual, that is we call cognitive functions will deteriorate, depression, frequent waking, nocturnal choking, impotence, etc. can be the some of the symptoms. The most common symptom is snoring, excessive daytime sleepiness we call excessive somnolence, and obstructive episodes. So this is during daytime, this is during night. During night, snoring, observed gasping or apnea, repeated waking, nocturnal sweating, nocturnal enuresis. During daytime, excessive sleepiness, morning fatigue, morning headache, cognitive impairment, heartburns, depression, impotence, xerostomia, etc. So same things are repeated again. So choking sensation, loud snoring, sudden awakening, and then they to restart breathing, waking up in a sweat during night, feeling tired, headache, daytime sleepiness, lack of concentration, fatigue, irritable, low oxygen to brain and heart, and that will produce. So these are all big list which can be there. Hormone disturbances, disruption, depression, snoring, sudden death can occur, increased traffic and workplace accidents. This is because of daytime sleepiness, hypertension, cardiac problems like cardiac arrhythmias, congestive heart failure, stroke, insulin resistance. Person can be diabetic also, memory problem, cognitive functions is affected. All those are again mentioned in the same way. Drowsy during driving, heart disease, death, depression, bored with sex, lived, liver damage, memory loss, mood swing, sleepy at work, type 2 diabetes, stroke, loud snoring, etc. These are all different pictures showing you what can be there. So you can have a cardiac arrhythmia, insomnia, depression, diabetes, memory loss, stroke, heart attack, hypertension, daytime drowsiness, arrhythmias, lot of things. Even broken marriage, divorce. You can see typical, this is a daytime sleepiness, excessive daytime sleepiness. Very, very characteristic. And secondary to that, person can end up with a road traffic accidents. There are sexual dysfunction, nocturia, enuresis, early morning headache. Now, if you want to diagnose, first important is a good history, patient interview, symptom, signs, chief complaints. Have a good physical examination, good medical history, and then test. So this will be important for diagnosis. Most important is medical history, physical examination, and airway examination. And then you can go for polysomnography, which is a gold standard. So for diagnosis, medical history, physical examination, airway examination, and then polysomnography. So history, physical examination, polysomnography is important. So good history, have a good physical examination, and you can examine upper respiratory passage even by use of a flexible endoscope, or you can go for CT or MRI, and then go for what we call as a polysomnography, sleep study by polysomnography, and then you can have a all different evaluation like cardiac evaluation, metabolic disorders, diabetes, etc. So in whom you should do an obstructive sleep apnea study? The person who has got an episode of apnea, loud snoring, choking sensation, insomnia, excessive daytime sleepiness, drowsy driving, unrefreshing sleep, sleep fragmentation, nocturia, morning headaches, decreased libido, memory loss. All these are the signs of obstructive sleep apnea. You should go for polysomnography. These are two words which are commonly utilized while you are suspecting obstructive sleep apnea. That is called stop, snoring, tiredness, if you observe apnea and hypertension. These are the four things you look for: snoring, tiredness, and apneic phase. Bang means BMI more than 35, age more than 50, neck circumference more than 40 centimeter, and male gender. So if you get this, high risk. If yes to 3 items, so if you get more than 3 items, and then you can refer to what we call as polysomnography. Oral examination, look for tonsils, look for adenoids, and you can go even for what we call as fiber optic examination, fiber optic endoscopy. So BMI, blood pressure, ENT examination by rhinoscopy. So nasal examination, that is rhinoscopy. You can examine oropharynx. You can measure neck circumference. So neck circumference more than 40 centimeter or more than 15.7 inches should be considered as abnormal. And flexible endoscopy is being utilized for upper airway passage as well as nasal examinations. And then you can look for cardiovascular complications. So these are all the things. You can see a big polyp, huge tonsil, we call kissing tonsil. You can see very huge tonsils. So clinical characteristic, excessive daytime sleepiness, disruptive snorings, apneic events, witness, obesity, neck circumference more than 40 centimeter, male more prone, strong family history, etc. All these are in favor. Clinical consequences, something in cardiovascular system like hypertension, cardiac arrhythmia, coronary artery disease, congestive heart failure, effect on cognitive functions, effect on mental functions, mood, history of stroke, obesity, metabolic syndromes, accident while driving, etc. There is something called as Epworth sleepiness scale, which you can utilize. If you are interested, you can just go through, because if score is more than 3, there is a high chance of what we call as obstructive sleep apnea. So sitting and reading, watching TV, sitting in inactive and public place as a passenger. So how likely you are to doze off or fall asleep in a following situation. These are the following different situation. While watching TV or in a public place or passenger in a car for an hour without a break, lying down to rest afternoon, sitting and talking to someone, sitting quietly after a lunch without alcohol, in a car while stopped for a few minutes in a traffic, etc. These are some of the score which is called as a Epworth sleepiness scale. So we have already mentioned all those things. You can take the help of audio taping or video taping, overnight oximetry. Best is polysomnography. Either in an institute or at a home also it can be done. There are different centers available. You can go for polysomnography depending upon the patient convenience. So polysomnography can record EMG, airflow, EEG, eye movement, oxygen saturation, cardiac rhythms, leg movement. We call as apneic index, hypopneic index, apnea, hypopnea index, and respiratory distress index. These are all the things which can be calculated by polysomnography. It is a gold standard investigation done mainly in a sleep lab where all these different parameters are being examined and you can interpret those. So there are a lot of things which can be done. There are other things like X-ray chest, CT scan, MRI, fluoroscopic examination, acoustic reflex. Then you can go for documented daytime sleepiness, TSH exam. In cardiovascular system examination, echo can be helpful. This is what we call as a less invasive sleep study. You can go for this specialized studies. This is called thermal infrared imaging with computational physiology. So you can have an EEG, nasal pressure probes, collects data from us at a single point. These are sophisticated tests. So these are little advanced way of testing. By polysomnography, these are the things which are being done. EEG, then ocular movement, it is called EOG, electrooculograms. EMG, that is muscle, then airflow at the nose, thermistor or pneumotachnography, and tidal carbon dioxide level, abdominal movements and chest movements, that is impedance plethysmography, ECG, blood pressure, pulse oximetry, esophageal pressure. Also you can measure intrapleural pressure and autonomic nervous system activity, that is finger tonometry. These are all the different material which you utilize, and by that you can identify the chances of obstructive sleep apnea. So these are the different things. It is like an ECG for an ischemic heart disease. So polysomnography is a main study where you look at the EEG, ECG, EMG, airflow, peripheral pulse volume, blood pressure, oximetry, etc. There are a lot of things which you can have. So I am not familiar with all this, so I'll be very sorry to explain you all this. This is a chart which is showing you a central apnea. You can see here, this is an apnea. This is apnea. While in an obstruction, the person makes an effort. So you have got a little movements. Efforts are there. So that is an obstruction. So that is an obstructive element. This is another way of testing. These are small instruments which can be put and you can have home sleep apnea testing. These are other called as actigraphy which you can use. These are watch which can record at home sleep apnea tests. Then you can have a sleep diaries, etc. You have to differentiate between these three main groups: obstructive sleep apnea, central sleep apnea, and mixed variety. And there is another which is similar to that, we call as obesity hypoventilation syndrome. And also you should look for what we call as obstructive sleep apnea with cardiometabolic syndrome, we call as a syndrome Z. And when it is with COPD, we call it the overlap syndrome. And this is a minor difference between narcolepsy, idiopathic hypersomnolence, and obstructive sleep apnea, hypopnea syndromes. So this is the difference between the three. At your leisure time, if you are interested, you can go through. Management will be different modalities are available, will depend upon severity of the symptoms, diagnosis from polysomnography, and comorbid condition mainly involving the heart, like congestive heart failure, cardiac arrhythmia, hypertension, disturbed metabolism like insulin resistance, etc. The most important treatment is remove the underlying cause if it is treatable, say like adenoids or tonsil, or corrective surgery. There is one another which is very useful is continuous positive airway pressure, that is called CPAP, by which oxygen is delivered, or you can use BiPAP, which is most effective, more effective than CPAP. And last is surgical intervention. So lifestyle, reduction in weight, body position during sleep, decrease alcohol consumption. You can first initially utilize oral appliances which can correct in good number of people. Then if it is not giving good results, then you can go for continuous positive pressure airway, we call CPAP or BiPAP. And even after that, if still the person is developing symptoms and signs, then you can go for surgical intervention like tracheostomy or uvuloplasty. So you do a corrective surgery by uvula, palate and pharynx at that level. These are oral appliances which can be utilized during sleep. These are different PAP therapy, of which CPAP, then CPAP with C-flex, BiPAP with Biflex. These are the most common which are being very useful, or BiPAP with SV. These are the different technology which are being utilized for positive air pressure. So CPAP, etc. Surgery like tracheostomy, tonsillectomy, corrective surgery for mandible, corrective surgery for oral structures like uvula, tonsil or area pharynx, etc. And in an obese individual, you can go for bariatric surgery like restrictive surgery, or we call bending, or Brooks and White bypass. You can have an oral, dental appliances, etc. All this can be utilized. By and large, avoid alcohol, sedatives, hypnotics, weight loss is very, very useful. This I am skipping over. This is a flow charts. If you are interested at your leisure time, you can go through. This is on a respiratory distress index. What is the index and accordingly what you plan out. So you can go through that at your leisure time. These are all the different flow charts at your leisure time. If you are interested, you can go through whatever we have mentioned before. Same thing in detail it is being mentioned. Weight reduction, positive airway pressure devices like CPAP, BiPAP, and there are many more modifications. You can have a oral appliances, and last is surgery. So conservative and surgical treatment we divide into two groups. So weight loss surgery, then different surgery for obstructive sleep apnea, right from tonsillectomy, adenectomy, corrective surgery for nasal cavity, uvulopalato-pharyngoplasty, then lesser assisted uvulopalatoplasty, radiofrequency. There are a lot of different types of surgery which are being done for that. We already mentioned lot of complications during night, snoring, gasping, difficulty in breathing, wakefulness, etc. Plus, even you can say disturbances in marriage, divorce, good number of things. And during day, excessive sleepiness, irritable, impotent, altered mental functions, altered cognitive functions, effect on memory. The person who is driving a vehicle can have a motor accidents at home or at work or while driving a vehicle. On cardiovascular system, hypertension, congestive heart failure, acute MI, strokes, cardiac arrhythmias, sudden cardiac death, chances of metabolic disorders producing obesity, diabetes mellitus, insulin resistance. So a lot of things can happen secondary due to obstructive sleep apnea. Big list. Hypertension, arrhythmia, ischemic heart disease, pulmonary hypertension, polycythemia, cor pulmonale, bradycardia, even tachyarrhythmias, attention deficit hyperactivity, enuresis, nocturia, sleep disturbances, memory disturbances, IQ can be affected, behavior can change, personality can change, strokes, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, obesity, motor vehicle accidents, nocturnal death, good number of things. Metabolic alkalosis, metabolic acidosis. Due to carbon dioxide retention, respiratory acidosis, and secondary due to when the person is awake will show you metabolic alkalosis. Again, same list what we have given before. Systemic hypertension, coronary artery disease, congestive heart failure, arrhythmias, pulmonary hypertension, cardiovascular, cerebrovascular accidents, risk of roadside accidental injuries because of driving, and during driving person gets sleeps, marital discord, or we call as a broken marriage or divorce, professional setback, depression, impotence, sudden cardiac death, big list. So I end my lecture here. I thank you for taking out time. I know your time is valuable and I appreciate you for spending some of the time with me. And I hope this will be helpful to you. You will see good number of time or sometime you are yourself is suffering. You are suffering from one of the portion of this particular disorders like obstructive sleep apnea, like snoring. You are getting little episode of hypopnea and apnea. So do keep it in mind. You can pick up and you can help them out.